I was 23 years old when I met Emily. She worked at a store where I often went to buy cigarettes. Word of mouth, we started chatting, getting to know each other more and more each time. After a few weeks, we started meeting outside of the store, having coffee or going for walks. And soon we were spending almost all of our free time together. 6 months later, we decided to get married. I still remember the excitement and nervousness I felt when I first went to meet her parents. I bought an expensive bottle of champagne and a nice box of chocolates, hoping to make a good impression. Emily reassured me, "Don't worry, they're quite normal." Her words reassured me a little, but I still felt I had to impress them. Emily's father, Uncle Brian, was a simple man, a truck driver, short, with a beer belly, always joking and teasing. He was casual and friendly, which helped put me at ease. When I saw her mother, Susan, she didn't look at all like the stereotype of a mother-in-law I had envisioned. She was slim, well-groomed, with a short, stylish haircut. She was quite attractive, and I was a little intimidated by her presence. Susan worked as a high school English teacher and held herself with confidence and grace. There was a lot to prepare before the wedding. I was busy with the paperwork, and Emily and her friends were busy picking out the perfect dress. Her parents were busy preparing the restaurant and guest list. My mother-in-law, Susan, handled everything else, deciding where to place decorations, where people would be seated, and how everything would go. She did it all so efficiently and with such authority that I couldn't help but admire her. At the wedding, I was nervous and ended up drinking a decent amount of alcohol to build up my courage. When the slow song started, I was caught off guard when my mother-in-law suddenly asked me to dance. "Dance with your son-in-law," she smiled, and I was mesmerized by her charm. She smelled of expensive perfume, and I tried my best to keep my composure, but as we danced, my hands slid around her waist. There was something electric about that moment, something I couldn't define but definitely felt. After the wedding, Emily and I moved in with her parents until we could buy our own place. It was temporary, but we had time to save up money. My father-in-law was gone a lot for work, driving his truck all over the country, so it was mostly just the three of us at home. I remember one day vividly. Susan leaned over my shoulder to show me something in the papers I was struggling with, and my head went spinning. Her hair touched my cheek, and the intoxicating scent of her perfume overwhelmed me. I turned my head, and our lips were suddenly very close. I don't remember who leaned in first, but the next moment we were kissing like we'd lost all control. She whispered something I couldn't make out, and I pulled off her robe. Lucky no one was home that day. "I haven't felt like this in a long time," she said later as she lay on the couch, catching her breath. I was silent, not knowing what to say. I knew I should be ashamed, but I wasn't. There was something about her that made everything else disappear. From that day on, things changed between us. As soon as Emily left for work, Susan and I would go straight to bed. She was so passionate, so full of life that I lost my head every time I was with her. My father-in-law would be away on a business trip, Emily would be at work, and we would be at home wrapped up in each other like rabbits. Sometimes I'd judge myself for what I was doing, but when Susan, I called her by her first name now, was around, all thoughts of guilt vanished. She had a way of making everything else disappear. With my wife, things weren't the same anymore. Emily was sweet and caring, but our relationship had become mundane, ordinary. Susan, on the other hand, was not ordinary at all. With her, every time was like the first time, exciting, exhilarating, and new. She was always coming up with something new, a new place to sneak off to, a new idea to keep things fresh, a new thrill that made me feel alive. She found ways to surprise me, to keep me in suspense, and I loved every second of it. My father-in-law would probably kill me if he found out, but I didn't want to stop. Honestly, for the first time in my life, I felt like a real man and not some clueless boy messing around in a relationship. Susan often told me that I had discovered something new about myself, and I believed her. She had discovered sides of me that I never knew I had: confidence, passion, a sense of adventure that I had never experienced before. I no longer cared about morality or propriety. When she was around, nothing else mattered. We met in the most unexpected places, in the kitchen, in the backyard, even in her car parked far away from the house. Each encounter was filled with danger and excitement, and I felt like I was living for those moments. She knew exactly what she needed to do to drive me insane, and I couldn't get enough of her. Our relationship evolved, becoming more than just physical. Susan and I shared secrets, fears, and dreams that I had never shared with anyone else, not even Emily. She listened to me in a way that made me feel truly heard, truly seen. We would spend hours just talking after moments of passion, lying together and whispering about our lives. She told me about her youth, her regrets, her dreams that never came true. and I realized that I wanted to be the one to make her happy, to give her what she was missing. I was torn between two worlds, one with Emily, who was my wife and whom I cared deeply for, and the other with Susan, who made me feel like I was truly alive. Every time I thought about ending it all, Susan did something to bring me back. A touch, a look, a word spoken in a whisper. It was as if she knew how to keep me hooked. The thrill of being with her, the way she looked at me, made me forget about everything else. I was addicted to her and didn't want to let go. With her, I didn't just exist, I lived. And even though I knew it was wrong, even though I knew the consequences could be disastrous, I couldn't bring myself to stop. Because for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't just an ordinary person. I was someone who mattered, someone who was desired, someone who was truly alive.